Gentlemen, welcome. Exciting times, ladies and gents. Thank you for joining us all around the world on the replays, all that kind of fun stuff. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, the TikToks. Nic, Shane, welcome. It's all going on. We've got season 2. We've had quite a little bit of feedback, which is exciting for us as far as the engagement from you guys. So thank you for that. But there's been a few requests for us to open up the subjects, I guess. We're intriguing characters, and for more reports you guys want to hear our thoughts across everything, not just the AFL. So you spoke, we listened is the call for this week. Nic, welcome. Shane, lovely to see you. Nic, we'll bring you in first, mate. It's been a big week across the world, really. So a lot to touch on tonight, but how are you keeping?
Nathan, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever anyone's tuning in at any stage. And hello to you, Shane. No, really excited about season 2. Really excited about the opportunities that are going to be presented throughout this forum. So, Shane, I hope you're excited. And I'll start with the usual welcome in saying the headwear, the attire. Can we please elaborate?
Absolutely. Good evening, gentlemen, and good morning to our European friends and those from the subcontinent. So the headwear has been offered to me by a lifelong Up and About podcast fan, being my lovely mother. So she's been hunting. She's very excited to see what I adorn every week. So Mumsy, thanks very much, and keep the goodies coming. This is a Kringle hat. I don't know what you'll call it, some sort of Cuban outfit, but $3. And I've got the receipt to reflect it. It's absolutely stunning. Great purchasing, mother, and can't wait to see what you produce for next week.
It looks like it's got a bit of Wimbledon colourage there.
Look, it's classy. It's very classy. It suits season 2, I think.
Mate, big season this one, and shout out to Tish getting in early. But gentlemen, we're going to open it up. Let's just dive straight in there. One of the most interesting little, I guess, byproducts of having this new social media world, and we've got direct access to the players and to every celebrity you've done correctly, really, is the link between, I guess, sports betting or gambling and having that direct link to players. A lot of abuse has been thrown at the players. We touched on it a couple of episodes ago. Personally, I think it's disgraceful. I think a lot of people need to have a good hard look at themselves. But Nic, we'll bring yourself in first of all, mate. This idea of gambling being linked not just with sports, but now the sports players copping sprays for people, I guess, missing out on a $5 multi turning into $800. Mate, what's your thoughts on it? There's plenty to dissect with this one.
For example, Nathan, that's not a direct result, not a direct example there, $5 into $800 or anything.
It's just a random
just a couple of numbers. Yeah, I understand.
A couple of numbers. Just
sorry about
arbitrary numbers.
No, but that's where the grounding of it's been, hasn't it? I mean, particularly with the frenzy that's going on at the moment, there's footy on every night, and betting agencies are really promoting the multis. And let's be honest, we're 3 lads who probably dabble in having a look at trying to make a quick dollar with stuff like this, but probably sane enough not to then go and DM an athlete or, go a bit silly on our own social media and talking down players. But you use the term byproduct, Nathan, and you're right. This is something that the players in yesteryear would rock up and play their sport, whether it be tennis, hopscotch on the freeway, Australian rules, rugby league, whatever it might be, and they would get the direct feedback from the crowd that were present there at the game at the time. They may cop a little bit if they go out for a meal or a couple of drinks afterwards. There's absolutely no escaping feedback from people who either have an idea, have no idea, male, female, beast, anyone. Social media gives them that ticket, and there's been probably some other things that have opened up during the week that we might delve into, but it's concerning. Shane, what's your touch? What's your touch and feel on this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was reflecting on it, and I'm not too sure how many people would recall, but the Winfield Cup and the Benson and Hedges ODI series from back in the day. These have been 80s and 90s NRL and cricket. So there was a time where the advertising of cigarette products became illegal, just based on the fact that we started to understand a little bit more of the science and the medical impact on individuals. I think there will be a flashpoint at some stage where we look at gambling in a similar fashion, and maybe let's throw alcohol into there as well. So Foster's and VB and any opportunity that these large brewers also have and have the influence over several of our very important sports. So I think it'll come down to the point of saying to the AFL, to the broadcasters, to the players to say, all right, this is the proportion of money that goes into your game or into your profit or into your offer for broadcasting rights directly from your Bet365, your Sportsbet and these types. They've done it so perfectly, the betting agencies. They've dragged in individuals. They've dragged in a Laurie Daly, a Nathan Brown, and a bloody Billy Brownless, and all the personalities have been fed the cash to go in there and plug a product. So there has to be a flashpoint where we go, all right, if you're prepared to cop the significant reduction in revenue that these agencies bring, then let's have a mature conversation about it.
What's the bigger issue, Nathan? Is it the gambling, or is it the access that the common man and woman have to athletes on social media? What's the bigger issue?
Well, I mean, I don't know if you can prioritize it. It depends on perception and the impact on whether you're talking impact on the community, the impact on families, and impact on the wider community, the impact on the gambling companies, the impact on the sport as a whole. But you use an interesting word there, Nick, and I think you hit the nail on the head, brother. That's access. Now, in today's environment, people want access. Now, these guys, whether they like it or not, they're celebrities, especially in Australia. I mean, especially in Victoria and Melbourne, and that's slowly growing interstate. But then the next question I think naturally comes about is what's a player to do? At the end of the day, if you're talking realistic terms, what they're actually doing is they're building their own personal brand, and that's valuable. So if they allow themselves to be on these social platforms to build their personal brand, at the end of the day, that's appealing for a club. If a club can justify an easy ROI as far as merchandise sales or that kind of stuff, that comes into play. So maybe a fringe player who has a lot more followers than another fringe player who no one knows them, mate, they'll get a look in every day of the week. So it would be a very, very tricky landscape to navigate for today's player, especially if they're not used to, I guess, the non-stop abuse that some of them have been copying. So there's a lot of questions to unravel here. Back to your question, Nick, which one's more important? Well, I mean, gambling is now a part of Australian culture, and I don't see that changing in the next decade. If you're going to have these massive gambling companies that are aligned with every single sport in this country, that's your issue. You take that away, and then everything changes.
Smoking was a part of our culture too in the 70s, 80s, early 90s, and that's been weeded right back. Maybe that's something that we might see with the gambling. I think everything in moderation is okay. That's what we tell the kids. Everything in moderation is okay. My personal view is the bigger issue here is social media. Saw a beautiful thing today from Nathan Buckley. I guess the positive side of social media is the instant response. So you didn't have to wait for a press conference to be held to address the hype and fanfare about him giving a fist pump to a supporter at the Adelaide Oval last night. He could just jump on his social media, answer it, and put it to bed quite quickly. So that side of things. But I guess we've seen the Anthony Seibold Brisbane Broncos thing blow up, and people in your workplaces, people down the street. A friend of a friend of a friend of mine told me this, and you guys have all received the text messages in various forums, whether it be through your social media, through a text message. I think that the bigger issue for me is the social media access and perhaps some legislation around putting some legitimacy around who owns that social media account. Make it verified. So give everyone the blue tick. You get the blue tick, interact with them. You don't have the blue tick, don't interact, block, remove. It's pretty simple.
I think so. What you're touching on is more accountability from, it's a pretty common phrase these days as a keyboard warrior. It's a bit weak, if you ask me. If you're going to throw some stuff out at a bloke, then at least have the decency to do it his face. I don't think it's social media's fault. To quote a gentleman I look up to, Mr. Gary V. Jason, you'd love that one. But, social media isn't the problem. All it's doing is fast tracking. It's exposing, the absolute dogs that live amongst us. They've got this platform that they've never had before, and unfortunately, it's a mark on society, and these absolute feral vermins are grasping the platform with all their might. But to your point, I think if we were to somehow, and look, I don't have the answer. Give me 12 hours perhaps. But if we could somehow, make these people be held accountable, I don't know what that looks like, then that may be a first step in navigating through this new digital age. Shane, have you got any thoughts to kind of round it out? Or?
Any opportunity to go back to the good old days where there's 80,000 ferals at a game, screaming, yelling, giving security a little bit of I know we have to be respectful and appreciative of and recognise people around us, but I think back to those days where it was very verbal, it was very parochial, it was amongst a group of your like-minded individuals, come from all walks of life. I think we need to focus on that rather than these vermin who sit behind many fake accounts in some cases and proceed to attack. Because the issue is going to be that more and more people, similar to Chad Wingard, are just going to avoid social media, avoid the media altogether, and that's not going to be good for the game.
No, fair enough. All right, gentlemen, let's. We were going to touch on this one a little bit later, but let's just bring in the heat, shall we? In the last week, we couldn't have missed it. Everyone has seen what's come about from a couple of Richmond players grabbing the genitalia of one of their teammates. It's been a little bit polarizing, and for myself personally, I guess a little bit confronting in the sense that, previously being a part of many an AFL team, and right or wrong, these actions were and perhaps are very common. And from an outsider that's looking in that perhaps hasn't been involved in this, it's very confusing, and a lot of questions are obviously being asked. Now, before we dive into this, I just want to make a couple of points, if I may. There's been an absolute shitstorm erupted over the emergence of the footage. So let me leave with this. I love that we have the opportunity as a community to discuss, dissect, and explore, where we are in any subject. As far as social acceptance at any moment in time. Community expectations on what is acceptable are constantly evolving. That never changes. It's in constant evolution. So there's no clear, definitive, year, month, week, day, hour or second where we intuitively know, oh, shit, that's no longer acceptable. I can't do that. As a community, we get to that moment through communication. We communicate all our thoughts, our ideas, our experiences at a grassroots level. And I guess going back to social media on platforms like this, we learn and we evolve our own perception and understanding by new information provided to us. Now, we discuss our experience and thoughts on this. We will in a moment, but I just want to share a little bit of disappointment that I've personally felt with something. It's common today for people to vilify. It's common today for people to strike out at people who perhaps share an opposing point of view, or to hold a point of view that may be perceived as a little bit old school or a little bit prehistoric, or not as up to date with where society has led us to today. So I think if everyone as a whole were to adopt more patience, understanding, empathy, and attempt to educate, not hang people out to dry, you're not woke. It's a really ugly look. And I think more love and respect will actually bring about the change that you're wanting to see. When you hold other people, to the slaughter, then what you're actually doing is slowing down the change that ironically you want to bring about. So that's just to kind of set the expectation on how I'd like to answer this, because it's an extremely sensitive area. And that's my little 3-minute rant. But Nic, we'll bring yourself in first, mate. You've been involved in a lot more AFL teams than myself. What's your thoughts on, I guess, everything? Where do we start?
Well, there's a lot to unpack, but I guess with anything in this day and age, the default setting for people is outrage. Doesn't matter what the topic is, the default setting is outrage. That gets the headlines, that gets people in, that gets people reading. And, I think in this instance here, the keyword that we used before was access. We want more access. We want greater access. You're going to see things. I'm not saying that this behaviour is condoned, but you're going to see things. So if we didn't have the access to the rooms after match, pre-match, you're not going to see that. Now, have the player aggrieved by what's happened? I would hope that the complaint is made now. And that's, if the topic here is football club culture, I hope when there's parties aggrieved that the world we live in now, the opportunity, the time and place is now to speak up. It doesn't have to be through their social media. It doesn't have to be in a public forum. Go through the right channels. And then if you're not happy with how that's handled, then look to other avenues. But I know that we see plenty of former athletes come out after the fact and want to air their grievances. Does this stuff happen in football clubs? Every football club has similarities. Every football club has differences. But in general, there's the boys' club mentality. A lot of that's being weeded out. I think that the players themselves would regret what's happened. But I think that the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. If the players are aggrieved, make a complaint. Otherwise, there's nothing to see here. I mean, sold many a paper during the week, hasn't it, Shane? Like, it's just been on and on and on. And then we're going back through footage as it happened before. Past players are saying that nothing to see here. I mean, it's a difficult subject, Shane. It's
an extremely difficult subject, and I've been in a lot of locker rooms, and often the boys' club is the fundamental thing around that culture, which means that there's conversations around body shape and body type and the capabilities and all various things. So I guess what we do need to understand, and you're right, is did Mabior Chol feel offended? Did he feel like he was being unfairly pointed out by? And these are very senior footballers as well. He would have walked into the organisation when Jack Rewalt and Nick Boston were very, very well-established senior footballers and winning premierships. So based on that, this isn't just a Liam Baker or a newbie coming in and bringing this behaviour. It seems like it's been ingrained for some period of time. I think that's the core thing, is if there is a feeling of offence, discomfort, hopefully no racial undertones. I have to explore that, of course. But I think that the media is going to wake up one day as well with regards to their constant desire for more access. And this is umpires getting mic'd up and then providing a bit more intel. They tried the camera of the umpires, so you had that absolute front and centre view of the players doing their thing. There will be a time where access, visual and audio, goes too far, and there will be that leveler. I'm not too sure what that incident's going to be, but it's going to happen. Anyway, I hope that Nabil Chol is being talked to by the right people with the right demeanour, the right attitude at the Richmond Football Club and the broader AFL. And we all hope that he is in a very comfortable and happy place with his teammates.
If it's something that Damien Hardwick's going to keep getting thrown questions at press conferences, I hope he just channels his inner player and jumps over the counter and gets a COVID infringement for belting one of the journalists, because there's, we're in hubs. We've got journalists that have gone to the hubs. We've gone a little bit off topic with the theme of the footy club culture, but it is just absurd what these people are chasing and hunting because, let's be honest, boys, the football's ordinary. This is season 2 for a couple of reasons. The football's pretty ordinary to watch. There's only so many times you can unpack the fact that we've kept the same game plans and we're not fit enough and we're handballing backwards and sideways and all over the place, and small forwards don't want to kick goals. But to tie it all up, there is no better place to be than a football club when things are going well, when things are going poorly, because you've just got such a breadth of people from all forms of life, male, female, old, young. There's no better place to be. And I think a lot of the people that have spoken out passionately about this have never actually been in the inner sanctum of a football club, or it's been that long since they've been in a football club, or they were there fleetingly, or they're these people who were going to be the next stars, but they got injured when they were 18 and stopped playing, that sort of crap. They've got no idea. So who would be the people that we should be listening to on these matters? Not necessarily the players of yesteryear, because that's a different time and place, but the 5-time day, 5-time night, Dermot Brereton, he did say the other night he doesn't want to comment a great deal of it, because he said that in his era, different time and different place, he hasn't been a part of this era, and he understands that that's not acceptable now. So I think that's where you would leave it at that. But we know that journalists want to keep digging and digging and digging to a point where someone says something, and then that becomes the new story. But as a whole, football club culture, it's definitely changed. And I think that you'll see a lot more players in the coming years retire early from the highest level to go and play community footy, because it's just great.
Yeah.
It is just fantastic. There's a lot less pressure. We're not videoing. We're not tempering our urine to make sure that we're hydrated. We can have a beer after the game. There's no skin folds. The pressure that these guys are under, particularly the kids, when they come straight out of school into the system, I'm not sure that's a place I'd want my son heading straight out to school. You want to go and experience the real world. And I guess being an elite athlete is not quite the real world. And the younger you're exposed to that, I think the more damage it's going to do to you.
Valid points, mate. You had a good segue. Let's jump into that. The football hasn't been great across the board. We've got a handful of brilliant matches, to be fair. And it's been exciting watching the up-and-coming players and teams. Go the Suns, go the Saints. But, Nick, you raise an interesting point, mate. The football overall, it's probably been subpar. The kicking accuracy on goal, mate, we've brought it up multiple times. I believe it's unacceptable. So whether that plays into the COVID and mental health, I don't know, because I'm not involved in the situation. But Nick, we'll go straight into our next, subject or topic. And the title is, of course, why are we playing football in this environment? That could be read a few ways. Now, we'll bring you in first, because I feel that Collingwood, perhaps for one, I think it's fair to say that they're underperforming from where expectations were for the 2020 campaign. So overall, as a product, there's some questions to be asked, and I think umpiring is definitely one thing they need to get clarity quick over. But Nick, we'll bring you in, mate. What would you have liked to have seen for the year 2020 since COVID hit? Do you think it's the right move for the AFL to push on and go forward with this brand and this package that they've obviously put together under trying circumstances? Or would you have preferred just to pump the brakes and do whatever needs to be done and wait for the dust to settle?
Well, I guess the blokes who and the women who are in the football media, the narrative is absolutely shifted. So there was the bashing for such a long period of time when it returned about it's no good, it's terrible. It hasn't changed. It's still no good and terrible. But we're not hearing and seeing that on your Channel 7s and your Foxtels, because if there is no football, then those people don't have employment. That's just the harsh reality of it. But I look at what Victoria is going through, family and friends down in Victoria at the moment. Victoria are a lot, like they're talking about, they're hoping to get to Christmas. They're hoping to have a normal Christmas. That's just incredibly sad. We've got 15 clubs that'll be hubbing in Queensland. 15 of the 18 clubs will be hubbing in Queensland. I think you'll have West Coast staying in WA, and you'll have the one of the two South Australian teams staying in SA, and Hawthorn also based himself in SA. I know that's costing a lot, and it's still going to be profitable for the AFL to some degree, but the damage. Surely we need to measure the damage this is doing to the brand. It's horrid. I do watch a little bit of rugby league. I don't think the standard in rugby league has dropped anywhere near in proportion to the standard of the AFL. And I think I've got the answer.
Here we go. I'm ready.
It's not a rugby league versus AFL thing, but generally speaking, it's the AFL player in the last 15 years has been athlete first, footballer second. And the result of being a machine and the aerobic abilities, the fitness, that has masked perhaps some skill that's dropped off. And I know a lot of the older players are talking about this and saying that the game's been terrible. They've been saying that for the last 5 years. But the modern game is quite attractive. A lot of players up forward of the ground. Yeah, absolutely. We're aware of that. But coaches haven't adapted their game styles, and the fitness levels aren't there. So what you're seeing is horrendous football. And that is just the reality. So you've got players who are still trying to do things with the game plan on the back of being in peak physical condition, and they're not in peak physical condition. And therefore you're seeing games where the amount of handballs that are missing a mark, the disposal efficiency is terrible. You're seeing guys miss goals, as you said, Nathan. It's Shane, take me away from the negativity. Do you want to still see it going? I know that St Kilda are going well, but if you park your allegiances, surely you're saying that this year is going to damage the brand more than financially.
I don't necessarily agree, Nick. The one thing I've just done obviously I'll go through a fair bit of research across the day, but just want to point out a couple of things. So the top 6 scoring teams this year are Brisbane, who are coming second, Geelong, who are coming third, Port Adelaide, who are on top, St Kilda, who are fifth, Richmond are sixth, West Coast are fourth. So the top 6 positions on the ladder are filled with teams that are scoring heavy.
You've got to score to win, though, Shane.
I know that.
Take me somewhere with the point.
No. So what I'm saying is that the attacking teams are succeeding. The attacking teams who are kicking more are winning. They're still defensively sound, but they are amping up the ability to attack. That then flies in the face of some early tactics from Clarkson and Longmire from early in the year, where it was a 30-21 victory. Okay, that's fine. You're going to get your 4 points. But as we stand right now, the top 6 teams are the highest scorers across the comp. So I hope that's being adapted. I hope there's people listening to that. I hope they're looking at the speed on the outside, because not surprisingly, they're 6 of the best teams to watch as well. They are kicking scores. They are trying to attack rather than just try to defend in order to make it a stalemate and win by a couple of points. So that's my hope, Nick, is that those 6 teams stay kicking goals, keep playing attacking footy rather than going into their shell and it becoming a scrum, because there are 12 other teams as a very broad snapshot that are playing pretty defensive, very average footy.
If this is getting beamed across the world, and I know that America fell in love with it. Do you know when America fell in love with Australian rules football, Shane? They fell in love with it as far as the COVID era, where they don't need to watch round one. So you've come off a full pre-season, okay? Players were fit, fresh. The game in round 1, although played in front of 0 people. It was a good round of football. The football was enjoyable. There was scores. Teams were attacking.
Yep.
Teams were defending hard. It was good to watch. Then we had the COVID break, and some players have applied themselves, some players haven't, and you can see that. Like, I don't want to sound funny, but the jumpers are near on cyclists' skin tight, and you can see a couple of lads are carrying a couple of extra kgs. Yes, who cares? You know, local footballers, there's good footballers. Yep, we know all that sort of stuff. But that's surely where the damage is. Coaches haven't modified. They're robotic. They haven't said, rightio, let's put a line through what the game plan was and shift it. And yes, I'm saying Collingwood is one of the. I know I'm coming from a Collingwood point of view, but you look at round 1, Collingwood versus Footscray. That is, I know that there's some players that are injured. Collingwood have fallen in against the 2 worst teams in the competition the last 2 weeks and putting a score of 50, 53 and 61 or something. I mean, please, it's horrendous. Park the fact I'm a Collingwood supporter.
Let's have a look
at one of the best teams to watch. It's horrendous.
Well, let's have a look at the NRL. I think have come back with a very good product. The Premier League came back; they scored. The NBA, they're in the Orlando hub at the moment. They are playing great ball. It's attacking. It's high scoring. It's great to watch. What's AFL missed? Has it simply been there's been a lot of people who are questioning whether they had a position as assistant coaches and strategists and recruiters and health positions and mental. Have they been begging for that over that COVID period to say, I need to make myself worthwhile. I need to make myself important. I need to psychoanalyze. I need to create this beast where round 2 onwards was just this manufactured, robotic, modelled style product, which just isn't our game.
It's got to come down to the club, though, surely. I mean, at the end of the day, mate, these are young men who Nick, you pointed out before, they're living this bloody bubble since the age of probably 14, like at best. They're still trying to find themselves. They have no idea. Well, that's a blanket statement, but it's my belief that a lot of these young men would struggle to have the self-awareness to know that that's probably their best steps forward. So surely it comes down to the club, and always in any organisation from the top down.
And they do, and you raised a fair point, because what's the average life expectancy in terms of, not as in real life, as in life expectancy of a footballer? It's about 2.5, 3 years in the system. People get drafted and think, this is it for me for 10 years. I'm going to go and be a commentator and live the dream, bit of breakfast radio. It doesn't happen. And unfortunately, the history of suicide, alcoholism, it is there in black and white as a result of the system. The system's created that. What's the system doing to address it? It's going to be a lot worse after this year. I can tell you that. What's going to happen? What's the plans in play? I'd love to hear from the AFL in terms of what are they doing for once this season finishes. What's the pre-season look like? I mean, I know we can't. The world's in a very strange place, but I really hope they've got 3 or 4 things in play, because it's not just 2020 that this COVID thing's going to affect things. It's going to be beyond. I hope we get on top of things. New Zealand were going well, weren't they? New Zealand, stage 3 lockdown because of 4 people. So, yeah, it's not just a Collingwood thing, boys. I think that people are flocking to local football for the purity of it, and the escapism. Probably a good segue to what you might be going to next, Nathan. But I fear for the game. I fear that it's going to be a hell of a long way back if this is the brand that's being served up.
Nicky J, you set him up. We'll knock him down. Let's go into perhaps maybe we have the answer. Maybe we do. Maybe we don't. Probably not. But gentlemen, just on that little segue provided by Nicky, there is a lot of stress at the moment. I think it's fair to say that most people would probably feel a lot more anxious, a little bit more on edge than they perhaps normally would. We're still in the midst of finding what this current environment looks like and how we should all, act and behave, and perhaps starting to question what the new norm looks like. So, gentlemen, I want to pose the question, mental health, or more to the point, positive fuel for our mental health. What are some things that you boys do just to keep an eye on your mental health, make sure that you are staying in a positive frame of mind more often than not. Shane, what's your cup of tea, brother? What are you doing today?
Cup of tea or glass of scotch, if you will. But now the key thing for myself was so the gymnasiums. I know when the gymnasiums were being closed, and as you know, I like to go and pump some iron, guys, get the lycra on and go and dance around a bit. But one of the things that I found really, really important for myself was during the times when the gyms weren't available and forecasting that there's likely to be times when they're shut again, is just to find an alternate way of exercising. So I then coined a website. It was called streetgym.com.au. So looking for investors. It was one of those haphazard pitch on a Thursday afternoon, street gym. So
John Laws didn't realise we were just plugging.
Where's that golden mic? I've got to find it somewhere. But what I was essentially talking about is how do you go around your local neighbourhood and find exercise things? So if it's a hill, or if it's a grassy verge, or if it's a public park or something where you can go and essentially mimic what you would at a gymnasium. I found that to be fascinating, just going around your local neighbourhood. And I know that there's certain restrictions, and they may be getting more severe down in Victoria, but just finding those areas within 1 kilometre or 2 kilometres from your house where you can commute or walk or ride your bike or ride your scooter or rollerblades or whatever, go there, undertake some physical activity, be open to new ideas around what physical activity might look like on a mat in a grassy area. That was part of the routine, and it helped me get through. Really, it did.
I love it. Nico, what do you find yourself, or I guess how do you de-stress, unwind, disentangle your thoughts week to week?
Very difficult for me because I've got one of those brains that doesn't stop. I find it very difficult to switch off. The best thing to do is to park your phone somewhere and move away from it. But I spend a lot of time in the vehicle, work of distance from my residence, and that time, not necessarily plugging into something to listen to, but sometimes the sound of silence when driving. It sounds very corny, but just that complete switch off. But I do tap into a number of podcasts which do make the time fly by and allows you just to escape. And one of those is the great the Billy Brownless and James Brayshaw show, The Rush Hour, just taking the piss out of everything. And doesn't matter how uptight you are about things, great to just to click into them, hear their thoughts on things, which is just very lighthearted. They're doing a bloody great job at the moment too, given the fact that they're live into Victoria, where they can't leave or do anything. But also, when you do pick the phone back up, is just checking in with people, just ringing to say good day. Nothing better than calling someone with no purpose. So you're not calling for anything, asking for anything, just calling to touch base and reminisce and reflect. Some people don't get that. And I know that if you've got alcohol involved, you go in the pub and people go, what are you actually doing there? What are you actually doing there? 9 times out of 10, it's storytelling. It's reminiscing. They're great things. The switch off button is hard for me. Yourself, Nathan, what is it that keeps the dog going?
I think you hit the nail on the head with a few things there, mate. For me personally, spending time with loved ones, I think is a big one. I'm going through a little interesting time at the moment, interesting point in life, just playing around with habits and I guess priorities, my own value system and moral compass and that kind of stuff.
Don't give up meat. Don't give up meat, man.
No, mate, I did that for 6 weeks before Christmas a couple of years ago with the missus, and the idea was get to Christmas and then gorge. But look, I felt great when I did that, but it's just too much of a hassle is the honest truth. But what else do I do? At work, got a handful of mates. We head down to the gym for anywhere from, the boss might be watching, anywhere from 30 to 40 minutes or so, which is great. Meditation is huge. I'm in the process of trying to implement that again daily. And just an hour a day. I know this sounds silly, and it's a point of conjecture with the missus a little bit, but for me, it's really important to have an hour a day just to myself, just to work on, I guess, projects. I've got a lot that I want to try and get to. I enjoy this podcast, the post-production stuff. I've got a few other things in the pipeline, a couple of courses. So just trying to find that hour a day just to work on projects is extremely important to myself. So that's where I'm at the moment, ladies and gents. So hopefully we can, hopefully AFL replays this and takes a few little tidbits. But Shane, mate, we might, I'm just wary of time, but we'll bring yourself in for the last little topic. Mate, I'll let you introduce it. It's a new fragrance, I hear.
It is a new fragrance, and unless you've been living on Mars, you would have seen there was Bet365, there was BetEasy, there was Sportsbet. Cumulatively over the weekend, they were absolutely overwhelmed by...
You didn't.
I did. I had to. I couldn't plop it.
Hold it up again, because I think the camera missed that. Wait till...
Sorry, yep, here I am speaking, and
bold,
that there is
shame.
the genuine article. So my lovely girlfriend went down yesterday to the local chemist warehouse, because that's where you go and get all your great fragrances in Australia, chemistwarehouse.com.au, and we were advised at the time that the tester had been stolen. And I went, if a tester's been stolen, it must be an absolutely delightful product. Hence, I paid the $50, not $49.95. Warnie's taking his little bit. I'm sure he's giving me some to charity. But it is a lovely fragrance. And one thing that I wanted to present today is I want to present a couple of celebrities across the globe. And I want you to offer me the first impression that comes to mind about what would consist their scent. Okay.
Oh, no. Can we just say that the SK Warren fragrance, he's, as per we did pump Warnie up in season 1, read the gin, he did the hand sanitizer, the myroom.com.au children's charity, which is going to be heavily affected by the fact that you can't do stuff in Melbourne. Portions of the fragrances going to there from the great SK. So that's the serious side of things. Now let's get into... I'm concerned about who you're going to bring up here, Shane.
No, don't be. No, I think this might be week 1 of 10, and I think by the end of the season we'll be getting to hit some pretty significant individuals across the world. So, politician. So this, and I've come up with a bit of a name. I've tried to coin it. So, politician, the one and the only, is the name of the fragrance, and it's for our Russian champion, Lord, Savior, President, Prime Minister Vladimir Putin. So I'll throw it to you, Nathan.
Yeah.
What's the first component of a scent that would form the one and the only for Vlad?
Well, it's got to be a strong. I don't know what that was. It's got to be a strong, strong, manly, husky kind of scent. Surely.
All right. A bit of strength, a bit of vigor. Nicholas?
The first thing that came to mind was white horsehair.
Oh, okay. Yep. All right. So
a big noble steed, white horsehair.
Yeah.
And also I saw, it's funny that Nathan said husky, I saw white horsehair. I saw like sort of a chill, like it would be like a minty chill with a husky as well there.
Ooh.
Okay. So I've got a bit of an idea on the marketing for that. So it might be a bit of faux fur, and that can adorn many a bathroom across Moscow. Okay, so moving on to the sports celebrities. So this was a bit of a tricky one, but I ended up with Joey Chestnut. So Joey is the multiple world champion for hot dog eating. And I found it a little bit difficult to come up with a very punchy term, but how to jag after eating a snag, I thought might just be it's a little bit long, a little bit, not great for the bus stop signage, but anyway. So, Joey Chestnut, I'll throw to you first, Nicholas.
I can smell like a mixture of sauerkraut and, when you first take the Kransky, the Cheerio out of the boiling water.
Yep.
And you get that. It's a mix of hot shower water and uncooked sausage.
Yum. All right, Nathan, finish off the product.
I'm going to try something. I have no idea if this is going to work or not, but let's just see if. Let me have a quick look here.
Oh,
I'll
no.
try and share my screen.
Oh, tech. Oh,
There you go. There's
Oh.
Joey Chestnut right there, ladies and gents. So that's what we're dealing with. What's the go? Is that an injury he's copped?
No, it's a mask, mate. He's COVID safe.
Is that what it is?
yeah.
Oh, lovely. And is that what's that shirt say? Is that Nathan's?
He's a big fan,
Nathan.
he's a big fan of yours.
Oh, fair enough. Since 1916, so his family's been on board for some time, which is great. Now, as far as scents and all that kind of
Stop
stuff.
sharing. I can't watch it.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
There we go.
whatever you do, don't you share
There
yours,
we go.
Shane, please.
Oh,
Jesus. Surely some sort of it's got to be onion, got to be fried onion in there.
Oh.
Fried onion.
right, onion.
I
Okay.
think bit of ketchup. This is going to smell like shit. There's no marketability here at all. Maybe, how about this then? Maybe some smoky flavor. If we're not going to go food flavor, maybe just a little bit of smokiness in there.
Okay. Yep. Smells like the steps of the German club after about 4 p.m. on the first day of the first test.
Do you remember the Grand? The Grand used to have, and multiple other places used to have the old hot dog stand as you stumble out at 3:03 a.m.
Absolutely.
The pit, the Alex Hills Hotel, used to have the hot dog stand out the front, and then someone was deceased on the dance floor, and so was the hot dog stand.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good.
Wow.
Okay, so we'll move on to the third member of the fragrance family today, musician, and I couldn't miss. The fragrance is called Don't Ever Stop, and it's by the great, the voice, Johnny Barnier.
Oh.
So, Nathan, because I'm sure Nick will have to wipe a couple of tears from the eye. He's a very passionate fan of John. So, Barn Dog,
Hit me.
smell me. What of John Farnham? Don't ever stop.
Yep.
A significant component, flavour, texture, scent for that product.
Well, they call him the voice, and for obvious reasons, but I don't think it needs to have anything to do with any sort of voice-related scent. I believe it's got to be one of greatness. It's got to be one that says icon, legend. You know, it's got to be literally top shelf pedigree here. So whatever that looks like in the scent realm, then I think that's what we're going to play with.
We're talking overpriced for 50 mils.
100%. I'm talking little tiny bloody thing.
Ooh,
Price of
wild.
like $500.
Oh, yeah.
$500.
I'd buy it.
You buy them all, yes.
I'm going to go with a different twist on this one because I know exactly, as a connoisseur of John Farnham over the years, I know exactly how this scent is going to be marketed and sold. Mix this, right? And it's going to sound a little strange. Peter Jackson's, like 15 darts smoked in one small confined area, combusted, right? Whiskey, top shelf whiskey, like whiskey that you, when it hits the lips, you go, I hope I'm not paying for this. That sort of whiskey. And then low, like because the man can work the stage, lots of lights. I'm talking about the early stages of BO.
Yeah.
Just the early stages. So like that, like, you know, when you go, is that me? You're not sure if it's you or not. You might need to get something sprayed on you.
Yeah.
So it's just, so that ultimate mix, combusted, 15 Peter Jackson darts smoked in a combusted space, a hint of top shelf whiskey with a really low level BO.
Is it something as far as as far as any sort of designs? I'm kind of thinking something a little bit like this, Nico. Is that what you had in mind?
Oh my God, that is magnificent.
I think we got a
All
winner.
the straight, Nicholas. Lucky we're near the end.
I think we got a winner.
That's you can imagine that on the label, and
That's it.
Imagine that as the bottle.
just John.
Just John, you could hold him. You could hold him and then just douse yourself in his soft BO. The smell at the bowling arenas. Bowling alley.
I've worded that incorrectly. It's not BO. It's just
Muskiness.
his natural scent.
Musky pheromones.
His natural scent. It's just the early stages of the, you know what I mean by that.
The tears with Celine Dion. A few tears as well.
Who's going to win the footy this week, boys? Are we going to race through that?
Yeah, let's race through
Oh,
it.
footy, yeah.
Thursday. That's right. That's our origin. Thursday, Sydney v GWS. Anyone? Oh shit! This is actually not too bad. I'm going GWS, gents.
Yes, Great Western Sydney.
Yeah, big sound. I watched Sydney firsthand the other day. They're terrible.
Yeah. Geelong. This is actually quite potentially the match of the round. I haven't even looked at the other games, if I'm honest. But,
but it's a good matchup, isn't it?
It's close.
It's a great matchup. So comfortably the match of the round there. So Geelong v Port Adelaide. Nico, mate, where are you? I'm going Geelong. I've got to remain bullish on them. I've been on their side since the start of the year. So I'm going Geelong. Nick?
That's at Metricon too. Yeah, I lean towards Geelong, but they're both sides who are they're up and about, both those teams. Geelong just.
Yep. Cats in a high-scoring affair. They were excellent against my boys last week, and their older players are fresh. They're still dominating after all these years. So, Cats by a couple.
Anyone give North Melbourne a chance over the Lions?
No.
Did you see that North Melbourne canned their VFL team during the week?
No.
I was expecting them not to play for the rest of the year based on that. Bottom.
Fair enough.
Brisbane.
Interesting. Nick, surely not.
Melbourne comfortably in this one. Melbourne, you got to go on form. Melbourne should beat Collingwood by 6 goals with the way that things are playing out at the moment. Shane?
I agree. I think Melbourne are playing reasonable footy. So, yeah, geez.
Mate, not us because we're fair in our critiques, but the Australian sporting media, mate, and to be fair, fans to a degree, extremely short memories. Weren't we all calling for Melbourne to be? I say we. Weren't the entire country calling for Melbourne to be almost delisted off the face of the earth because of the poor form that they were displaying? Wasn't it 2 weeks ago?
But they've beaten 2 powerhouses in Adelaide and North Melbourne in the last couple of weeks, so you've got to respect that.
They're not playing well. It's just that Collingwood are playing in a very, very dysfunctional manner at the moment. So
Collingwood need to learn that it's football, not handball. Stop handball and kick it long.
Nick.
Get it into Brody, and for Christ's sake, Callum Brown, get an appetite for goals or go away. Oh, sorry.
Keep going, Hunter.
Go on. Let it out, brother.
Fremantle, Carlton. I think that I really like the way that Justin Longmuir's got his side playing, and I think that Carlton presented really well over there, but against West Coast. But Fremantle should beat Carlton. Good game though. Be a ripper.
Dockers 8:10 p.m. on Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening. So they're playing great footy. The Dockers, they're fun to watch, and some of their young blokes, they're probably going to be up there in the Rising Star. They're coming in and playing really good footy.
So you're going Freo, yeah?
Freo.
All right, mate. I'm going to go Freo as well. If this wasn't out west, I'd go Carlton, but I'll go Freo. I'll also tip Collingwood, Nico. I'm tipping Collingwood over Melbourne. St Kilda, Shano, how are you boys going to go against Essendon? Give me some good news.
We'll win. Essendon are terrible. So we'll win. We're going to have obviously a longer break for this game after all the tired, all the clearly fatigued performance against the Cats. Cats were excellent. We went up to it. So after a longer break, I think we'll rest, recover, recuperate, and get back and win by, I don't know, 5 or 6 goals.
And Nick, what's your tip? Then we'll go back and tip Western Bulldogs versus Adelaide as well. But you got Saints.
Yeah,
Saints.
St Kilda. I think that the Geelong game they can park that, but also a bit of a. They wouldn't have minded that, Shane. Just
agreed.
Don't get ahead of yourselves, young fellas. The Cats are there, and the Saints are coming.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, so Nick, Western Bulldogs versus Adelaide.
Yeah, the Western Bulldogs will annihilate Adelaide. Adelaide is so bad, and Collingwood actually made them look half decent, but Adelaide are terrible.
Shane?
Or you buy a bundle. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. All right, West Coast versus Hawthorn. Surely we're all going West Coast, yeah?
It'll be the biggest margin of the year to date, of which I don't know what the biggest margin is. Is the biggest margin of the year to date Collingwood beating Western Bulldogs in round 1? Was that the biggest margin? I don't know.
No.
Lenny will hit us up.
Yeah, I'll say West Coast could do this by 15 goals.
West Coast easy.
Done. Richmond versus Gold Coast Suns. Is it the Gabba, actually? What day is this played?
This is on a Monday night, the 17th of August, and we're back on air 2 days after this. I think the Suns will go okay for a half, but the Tigers are just doing what they did last year, aren't they? Just false sense of security, and then a bit like, what's his name? Joe Exotic. You're sitting there patting it. You're sitting there patting. He's a nice Tiger. They're going okay. Then bang, just rips your arm off. The Tigers are on. That's a terrible whatever. Can we cut that out?
I thought it was good, mate.
Yeah.
Back yourself.
Carol Baskin.
Anyway. So you're going Richmond?
Absolutely, yeah.
Tigers by a couple, and that's formally the end of the Footy Fest.
It is.
Yep.
This version of the Footy Fest. So might be able to spend a little bit of extra time with the family on Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday. 3 days in a row without footy. So enjoy it, guys.
Thanks for your patience, women. But mate, I'm gonna tip the Gold Coast there. Thanks
Ah.
for getting my tip there, Shane. But look, ladies and gents, let's wrap it up. That's season 2. You spoke, we listened. So we're gonna open up to many a subject that touches us all in all the right ways. Nick, always a pleasure. Shane, enjoy, brother. We'll see you next week.